I've been dazed and confused so long it's not true. Why did a woman never bargain for you? Sweet little baby, say what you will. Turn back so much when I send you the bill.
That, of course, the familiar psychedelic rock band that tore a hole in the music multiverse, not only from 1968 to basically 1980, but still to this day, a band and its four fantastical members, Paul Jones, John Bonham, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant, that remain always relevant from their past albums to their reunion and unplugged sessions, collaborations, but most importantly, their infinite contribution to rock and roll for generations that have yet to arrive yet. Welcome to the Catalog Review Show, Led Zeppelin. Today we celebrate and rank the astounding 9 studio albums, a monumental feat considering the scope of their sound and the intensity of which they played in such a very short time. But before we ramble on, welcome to our returning music multiverse listeners. To our newcomers, Mello is the man who knows what he's missing. Please click the subscribe button so you can get all of our love. And we appreciate the likes and comments. Thank you. Rooted in the blues, Led Zeppelin could be considered one of the most creative bands to utilize that root. Ranging in the depth to rock, rockabilly, progressive rock, where they instituted folk, psychedelic organ, Celtic, reggae, art rock, and even jazz principles, especially in later compositions like Houses of the Holy and In Through the Outdoor. The band was blitzkrieg in motion, making an album every year, with 2 of them dropping in 1 year, which, considering the jam session of blues standards and the high production, that's crazy. They have to be one of the most influential rock bands ever. They obviously have the greatest single of all time, Stairway to Heaven, which is the most played radio song ever. Individually, Robert Plant probably became the first ever rock god figure, considering the vocal, the bare-chestedness, and the flowing golden locks. Jimmy Page, the guitarist, remains a demigod himself in riff creation and improvisation. Once it was over for the Yardbirds, Page took control of his destiny by becoming everything there is to be Led Zeppelin, putting the band together, doing all the production, influencing a host of other guitarists. John Paul Jones, bass and keyboards are more important than sometimes he gets credit for. And he also has a strong writer within him. Then there's John Bonham, the drummer, the wonder, the greatest of all time in such a short time. The debate can rage on, but the fact is, what he was laying down was the foundation of a band that would rule the world. Their awards, just to name some: Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995, UK Hall of Fame in 2006. Don't ask me why they waited so long in the UK. Among the band's awards are the American Music Awards in 2005 and the Polar Music Prize in 2006. Led Zeppelin were the recipient of the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2005, and 4 of their recordings have been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. They've been awarded 5 Diamond albums, as well as 14 multi-platinum records, 4 platinum, and 1 gold. I wonder what that gold album is. While in the UK, they have 5 multi-platinum, 6 platinum, and 1 gold, and 4 silver albums. I wonder whose country likes them more. Rolling Stone named Led Zeppelin the 14th greatest artists of all time in 2004. In 2003, Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time, they have 4 albums in the top 100, with 1 just barely outside the 100 mark of that 500. In 2005, Page was appointed the Order of the British Empire. I don't know if he gets a weapon with that or not. Probably not. And in 2009, Plant was honored as the commander of the Order of the British Empire. And I don't know what that gets him. He gets to point at people and tell them what to do. I guess that's kind of cool. The band was ranked #1 as the greatest artist of all time in VH1 and Classic Rock's 50 Best Live Acts of All Time. They're also awarded the Ivor Novello Award for Outstanding Contribution to British Music in 1977, as well as the Lifetime Achievement Award of that ilk 20 years later in 97. The band was honored at the 2008 Mojo Awards as the Best Live Act prize for their reunion tour. And in 2010, Led Zeppelin 4 was one of the 10 classic album covers from British artists to commemorate a stamp in the British, they call it the British Royal Mail. Everything's royal over there. Led Zeppelin were finally, in 2012, the recipients of the Kennedy Center honors. So tonight, our panelists face down 9 albums to put in order of their least favorite to most favorite. Those albums being Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3, Led Zeppelin 4. Oh, how nice it would have been if they were all just that way. Houses of the Holy, Physical Graffiti, Presence, In Through the Outdoor, and finally in 82, Coda. Now, what's interesting is the fact that the band is near and dear to 2 of our panelists. One of them so much that we have a special gift for her. Deb,
yeah,
you have a package there to open. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
I guess it's that time.
Okay, should I show the front first?
You can show whatever you want first. So we have Deb. Well, what color is that, my dear?
It's red.
Kind of like a salmon color, maybe?
Kind of like a reddish salmon, yeah.
All right. What's on the sleeve?
Oh, I wish. Mrs. Plant.
Mrs. Plant. Mrs.
Yes, does
Robert
he know?
Plant.
Is he going to show up at my house? Is this like the
I'm not
Publishers
quite sure
Clearinghouse?
if he knows yet, but we'll
Okay.
inform him when we get a chance. And on the back,
Deb Armitage Maloney Hicks.
Damn.
Oh, Hicks
So you
Maloney.
will now
You
be called
that
Damn.
Damn, I'm good.
Damn.
Okay, I
And
gotta
Damn
put it
has now
on.
joined us.
I'm having technical difficulties. You keep freezing and I have to get off.
Oh,
Maybe
good. I get
your
to talk
internet
more.
connection is a little hokey.
Hey, Deb, look at the sleeve.
I did. I'm Mrs. Plant. I was wondering if Robert was going to show up at my door like the Publishers Clearinghouse winner, you know? There he is with
Well,
balloons.
I have
might
a
have to
call
shut
out
the
for him.
computer. Thank you, you guys. I love it.
Great. So, that being said, and my intro done, we will allow our panelists to start. We're going to go 9, 8, 7, then 6, 5, 4, and then 3, 2, and 1. We'll start with the lady first, Mrs. Plant, or Damn.
Damn. So we're doing our order before we talk about our entry level into the band and all
No,
that.
you can talk that. That would be my preferred, that you would talk about
Your show.
why Zeppelin. Why Zeppelin? This is
Thank you,
your show.
Okay. Well, first of all, my first experience with the band, you know, when they had their first album in 69, I was only 7 years old, and my musical influences were given to me by either my parents or my older cousins. And at that time, it was more, you know, Elvis and stuff like that. Then when I got into the mid 70s, middle school to high school, you know, I was listening to more Chicago, Boston, Billy Joel, Styx, ELO. And then, of course, magically in my junior year, I met the love of my life. And what do you think his favorite band was? Led Zeppelin. So, between that and like Ted Nugent and The Who, it took me into a whole different direction in my musical taste and actually broadened it. I didn't stop loving those other bands, but I was a musician too, and I felt that there was more depth in Zeppelin than was in these other bands, that as soon as you would hear the first 2 notes of a song, even though it was on a new album, you knew exactly if it was Boston or if it was Styx. So that was my entry level into Zeppelin. What I love about them is everything, obviously. But like I said, the depth. bluegrass and blues, things that I hadn't really been exposed to before in popular music. And just the quartet themselves is just the gold standard. They just mesh like nothing else. They just are so cohesive, and it doesn't matter who wrote the song or if it was a song that was written to showcase the singer or the guitarist or the drummer or the bassist. It all worked so well. Even pulp culture, embrace Zeppelin as far as look at Spinal Tap is a direct mockery of Led Zeppelin, but a loving mockery. I picture those guys sitting outside of the big castle, and I picture The Song Remains the Same movie, and they're all sitting out there talking about Aleister Crowley. And, at that point when Spinal Tap came out, how many of our great drummers had died? And they're talking about their drummer died of spontaneous combustion. I mean, it's
Yeah, they had
hilarious.
like 46 drummers in their band.
Yeah, it's hilarious. The other thing that I had a connection with them about, and it was more as a woman thinking about becoming a mom one day, was when Robert Plant lost his son in 77, and I just kind of sat back and thought, how do you go on from that? How do you just not become a hermit and hibernate the rest of your life? And then when even now looking back at it and seeing how he persevered and not just stayed stagnant and reminiscent to keep in that place where he was when that happened to him, moving forward and becoming bigger and better version of himself and giving more to the world in spite of that loss. What I don't like is that we didn't get to see decade over decade of what they may have become, but they were having their troubles anyway. Who's to say that they would have been anything like the Stones as far as longevity? But you know, even their album In Through the Outdoor, I you could hear some differences as far as where the songwriting was coming from after the death of his son. Um, my best story about Zeppelin, and it's one of the things that I don't like, is I had tickets to see them in November of 1980. That was the In Through the Outdoor tour. And I was going for my 18th birthday, but Bonham died on, I think it was September 25th. I mean, it's almost coming up on the anniversary of that. So, but then I got to see Plant play solo twice, once at Shays, where I was in the front row balcony, and I felt like that's the closest I would ever get to Robert Plant, but now that I got the shirt, maybe I've got a chance. And then I got to see Page and Plant in Memphis on their No Quarter tour, which was probably third best experience after having my two children. So it was just, I was in my glory. It was awesome. And then several years later, maybe a decade later or so, our distinguished host turned me on to Plant and Alison Krauss, and I went, oh my gosh, this man can do anything, and I will marry him one day. So in order of 9 through 7,
Yep.
Coda's 9. Coda's 9. I I actually never listened to it. I boycotted Coda. I wasn't into it. I didn't care for Presence. That was number 8. And number 7 was Physical Graffiti. And that is more it was easy for me for my bottom 3. I didn't know exactly what order I would put 8 versus 7 in. It was kind of a toss up, but
Yeah.
that's where I went on those.
Cool. Jeff Young, what say you?
I have the exact same 3 in the exact same order.
You did?
Wow.
And if I were a real snob when it came to music, I would say Coda I wouldn't even recognize because they only did that to fulfill their contract.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So,
you guys are going to hate me later. You really are.
Honestly, I never listened to it. I don't even know if I ever listened to it once, like through the whole way. Like if I listen to it, it's because it happened to be like on my satellite or on my.
Agreed.
playlist from me anyway. But yeah, same thing. Like there's some good songs on Presence and Houses of Holy, some really ones you'll hear forever, but it's just a couple for me. It's just not, which is, and it's not uncommon for any band to sort of fade, especially when you're arguing and there's drugs and your drummer died. Like there's just a lot of stuff gets in the way. There's so many obstacles for a band. That's why it's so unique. The Stones are still around, but so I had the exact same three. I mean, and it's just, those are
rock.
Those are albums I had. I don't think I ever had Coda, but I had all the others, on cassette. But I would listen to them, but they were never the ones I always grabbed first. It was like
right.
Perfect.
The Grateful Dude. Now you have the floor.
Yeah, well, I keep popping in and out here. So, and I missed almost everything Deb said. So
it was brilliant. You'll have to come back and listen.
I will. I'll be the first one on the when we go live.
Especially all the stuff I said about you. You'll want to know what that was.
Yeah, well, hey, she always
it's very complimentary.
So that's so funny.
So anyway, I'm so opposite to you guys. I'm going to give you, first of all, I'm going to say something. I don't know if Deb said. This is the most hardest, ridiculous challenge, period. I can't rate these guys. I like every album for their own, all of them. So I asked Mark if I could just have one, but he wouldn't let me do it. He said, nope, I got to rate them. So I'm not going to even really talk about them too much because I love them all and they're all so good. We're going to have some interesting discussions with my order later. But anyway, so my last three are In Through the Outdoor, Houses of Holy, and Physical Graffiti.
Okay.
Wait, what did you say? In Through the Outdoor went, and that was your number 9?
Yeah.
And
what was number 8?
Houses of the Holy.
Okay.
And Physical Graffiti.
Okay.
Okay, well, we all put them so far at 7, Physical Graffiti. Okay. Oh my God, dude.
Shut up.
You have to put that on the other sleeve.
Hey, there's no judging your favorites. Your favorites.
No one's wrong, right?
That's
Alex
right.
isn't here. So, Jeff, you'd seen the band how many times?
11.
I hate you.
Did it get better?
First time. The problem is that the first and last was the best because they were by themselves. The other times I went to what they call the US Festival in California. Very, very huge festival. 60, 70,000 people and 3 days or 4 days were the bands. And Led Zeppelin was there every single time. So those do count, but they're not memorable experiences because you have no matter where you stand, you got 10,000 people within 20 yards of you. So you can't really hear, you can't really, the first time I saw them was in 1970-ish, late 70. And I saw them at the Will Turns Theater in, it's a fairly small venue in downtown Los Angeles. My younger sister's older boyfriend took me.
Okay.
So, but it was only 800 and I'm gonna say 850 or 900 people.
Really?
And yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, in their younger days, they did a lot. I mean, I tried. They played at the Troubadour downtown LA, which is only 300 people. But I stood in line like a lot of people. When you stood in line, they came out and gave you tickets at the last minute who was going to make it. And I was still at 80 people from making it. So, but that thing sold out in half a minute. They didn't even take pre-orders. You lined up and
back
hoped.
then, yeah, right?
Yeah,
pre-orders.
Lined up and hoped. But yeah, I love them. I've seen Plant once, and I I think only individually. I'm wishing I'd be here in December, but I'll be out there because Platt and Page are doing Hawaii.
I'll switch with you. You come here, I'll go there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Get out your checkbook. Back seats are starting at $450.
They need to do like a residency in Vegas.
Yeah,
never happened.
No,
probably not.
Yeah, but that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody offered them like $1 billion to go on tour.
My number 9.
Led Zeppelin. I only saw Page and Plant once.
A reason for that is while this is a fan's dream, really, there's nothing here that puts you like as if this was progressing. This was stuff from prior, right? The only thing, there's only one thing on here that is worth having this, like bar none, and that's Bonzo Montreux. Okay, that drumming by Bonham here is quintessential. Other than that, the rest of it is, it harkens to all the days, which is kind of cool. And I can see where later on this might be somebody else's, top dog or somewhere near there. This is number 8 because the cover sucks. I really don't have any. I don't even what presents. Okay, well, I guess we're all present at that family dinner table forever.
That always disturbed me too. I couldn't figure it out.
Although I will tell you, Achilles' Last Stand, best opener.
That's a great song.
On their album.
That's a great song.
That's a great song.
And then I have In Through the Outdoor. This album, for me, has a keyboard level that's a little obnoxious. However, I like they explored that pop contribution kind of thing. It was interesting because it's prog enough, but definitely this is number 7. So Deb, back to you for 654.
Okay. This like I said, this group was hard for me. At any given day, I could switch the order between 6, 5, and 4, but they are in the middle group. I had Zeppelin 3 is number 6, Zeppelin 4, the Untitled, is number 5, and Zeppelin 1 as number 4. And it's hard for me to really explain why I put those there until you hear the reasons why I chose my 3, 2, and 1. Okay. I mean, what I did, just because to me, I don't recognize songs by their albums as we have discussed before. So I did due diligence and pulled up every single album and looked at every single song and went, okay, I love 8 out of 9 or 8 out of 10. And that's kind of how I figured out how to do my 6, 5, and 4. But it was so hard because, number 3, you got the Immigrant Song and Friends and Gallows Pole, which is what they did in their No Quarter album, and they just did it so much better, I think, in No Quarter. But still, Since I've Been Loving You, it was just so hard. And that's where I think they introduced a little bit of their Middle Eastern sound, I think, for the first time. There's just a little bit of it, but you go, oh, they're starting to dabble in something else there, but then some country blues instead of just hard core traditional blues. And then for number 5, which I did Zeppelin 4, I mean, my God, the only song I don't like on that is their biggest hit of all time, Stairway to Heaven. I don't like that song, but Levee and Going to California, Misty Mountain Hop, oh my gosh, Black Dog, it's just too hard to pick. And then obviously number 1, I mean, Communication Breakdown, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave, Good Times, Bad Times, You Shook Me, Dazed and Confused. It just goes on and on and on, where you go, those 3 albums to me kind of overlap, and it's hard for me to distinguish. So to me, it was more of a grouping than an actual ranking.
Okay. Mr. Young.
So for 654, I went 6 is Into the Outdoor, 5 is Zeppelin 3, and 4 is Houses of the Holy. And honestly, 6 and 5, you could flip flop them. Doesn't matter to me. Yeah. They're pretty much equal to me as far as a favorite. But yeah, great songs. Again, same thing. Like there's songs on there you'll probably hear forever. But yeah, I mean, just couldn't put those in my top three. And but yeah, I mean, just like I said, just there was a stage where like I just was on a kick. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy everything I can find with Zeppelin, whether it's import or regular, and I'm just gonna listen to everything I can. And that's why I had those. But
How old were you,
yeah,
Jeff, when you started listening to them? Because you guys are 10 years younger than I am.
it's probably in junior high school, maybe. I don't know if it was in grade school yet or not. I don't know when I got the first album, but I think the first one I ever bought was Four, which makes sense, right? If you've never heard them, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, not exactly sure when I first started listening to them.
Cool. I agree
Grateful Dude.
somewhat.
Okay, well, I give up. I am so far. I can't believe your picks. Some of what you're saying, but it's okay. We all very subjective in here.
I'm less educated than you guys on Led Zeppelin, even though I listen to them a lot.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. Anyway, okay, my let's see, 6, 5, and 4 is Physical Graffiti.
No, you already had that.
No, I didn't.
You had.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You had it. It's your number
wrong.
7.
No. Okay,
I'm keeping track here.
Be quiet. Led Zeppelin 4, Presence, and Led Zeppelin 1.
Okay. And how was it
I started listening to, even though I actually saw them before I was a fan. Okay. And even though at that time, and I'm 15 and 16 back here, 17 during those years, 1 and 2, I didn't like at first. Not when I was young. I was totally in the Dead and CSN and stuff like that. So the Dead were just slightly out of my comfort zone. But after I saw them, I said, "Oh wow, these guys have potential. They may even last a few years." But
I like that.
So the first album I bought, and the first album I really, really liked, I won't tell you because it's part of the list. But Presence, Led Zeppelin, 4, Presence, and Zeppelin 1.
Yeah.
Mark.
So
go ahead.
For me, as I got my first entry obviously would be the same as Jeff's. Although I can tell you that the first song I ever heard was probably from In Through the Outdoor, because that was being played on pop radio, and Spool in the Rain, is that it?
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Probably.
In Through the Outdoor, yeah. Fool in the Rain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, so my number 6, and this, I'll tell you why. My number 6 is 1. This is the weakest start to the Led Zeppelin albums if you backtrack. It's the worst leadoff single. Well, it's not the single, it's just the starting song. This is a blues-driven album that doesn't have its hooks into psychedelic just yet. Plus, as originality goes, Willie Dixon, they're not playing their stuff. They're kind of doing their throw on blues, right? Jeff Beck had actually already covered this on his album. Now Page and Beck were friends, so that was going on at the time. As a matter of fact, I think Jeff Beck gave him the guitar as a gift to play on that record. So
really, that's interesting.
But they did an excellent job. But that's not the track that gets noticed. It's Dazed and Confused, right? That's that biggest, boldest statement amidst the time, and it fits so wisely. The production is wicked, and the psychedelia begins because they bring in the Hammond organ by Jones is a nice touch. My number 5 is Physical Graffiti. This is a full psych trip. Finally, some real innovative guitar work from Page, while Bonham and Plant continue to just lock it down. Plant's voice is extremely forefront and often the melodic side of everything against the bass drum. parts and the slide guitar that's hovering madly, whimsically by Page. It's funny how raw it feels, although it's probably so well produced. It's like a reverse credit kind of thing. It just also in this, it's Trampled Underfoot is an example of that, right? And again, the keyboard influx gives it that boogie. So we got Psychic Boogie, right? Which is probably why Rob Zombie lists them as one of his influences.
Okay.
So, and then we get all twisted up in the second act of this by In the Light, and then it's into some wonderfully placed instrumental, but then it gets down by the seaside, and it's discombobulated toward the second part a little bit. So that's my 6, my 5, and my number 4, contrary to probable belief and where most people would be, number 3 is my number 4. Out on the out on the tiles just seems misplaced here to me. Otherwise, this record is thrilling, well done without sprawl. The last track, which is a cover, seems better produced than the prior track. In the last 3, I'm a bit disheveled, I guess, and that's kind of why this one fell a little bit.
Okay.
Back to you, Deb, for your final 3, 2, 1.
Well, I know that none of you are going to really agree with me, but I have reasons that go along with it as well. So number 3 was In Through the Outdoor for me, but that was because I had just gotten introduced to them probably in 78, 79, and I was ready to go see them in concert. So that's what I was listening to all the time. And that's what introduced me into, hey, I'm going to go backwards into their catalog. So number 2 was Zeppelin 2.
Okay.
And that I think is up there that far for me, just because over the course of the last 20 years, me going and seeing live music and appreciating a lot of these little bands. Even when I was in Memphis, I was in St. Louis once, and I walked into this little bar, and this big Black woman sitting down on this chair with her little jar in front of her. And when she opened her mouth and sang Whole Lot of Love, I almost lost it. Like, I forgot that Led Zeppelin ever did that song. It became Her. It was so good. And it kind of introduced me to how much of an influence these songs from this band is on so many generations, in so many different genres, in so many different cities. So that was like my backward step to start to learn the band a little bit more. And there's not one song on that album I don't enjoy. And
12 times platinum. 12.
Is it? Okay, well then it comes, okay, then I guess I'm not just talking out my butt. But Houses of the Holy is my favorite. That's because that was my first album to listen to in its entirety before I even listened to In Through the Outdoor. And it's because it saw, as a woman and somebody that was coming from Boston and Kansas and the Eagles and Chicago, it was a little bit more fun, not as heavy, not so much crescendoing through things. It was just more like you could actually dance to some of the songs if you wanted to. Not that you're going to go to the Pleasure Dome and hear that kind of thing, but and then when you listen to that one song, Bonham, was it Crunge? Oh my God. Like he
Crunge,
just,
yes.
oh, okay. That's when I knew this is a drummer that I have to listen to these other albums. So, and then No Quarter is on there. Oh, Dancing Days. What is that? The train is coming in. Robert's here.
Right in my backyard right now. It's the one to Tokyo.
So my picks can be kind of I'm more sentimental when it comes to the way I choose things, not so production driven like it is for you, Mark, which you know, I'm just the silly blonde sitting here giving her take on things, you know.
I like your connections. That speaks to the plateau or the what this is all about, you know, a connection made in time, right? Through the power of sound.
So, but I do agree with the silly part.
All right. Well, now I'm going to say, I won't say shut up because my parents taught me not to say that, but I will say zip it. Okay.
Jeff Young, where do your final 3 fit?
So number 3, I picked Zeppelin 1, which they recorded in 30 hours.
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
The
ridiculous.
second album
Somewhere
took
around
8
that,
months.
30, 36.
The second album took 8 months. That is my number 2. And my number 1 is Zeppelin 4, which was my introduction to them and still has some incredible music on there. Some of the most important ones you've ever heard. Obviously, you've heard them on commercials, you've heard them in movies, everywhere. So, which, you know, it's funny, Mark, you mentioned like all the platinum, all the different quantity of albums they sold. That they never had a number 1 single ever.
No.
They didn't? Not even Stairway to Heaven?
Nope.
Not when it was introduced. No.
No, their catalog is one of people going back.
Yeah.
And realizing.
And they do, like, what's funny too is, like, I would say at least 4, maybe more of their songs have references or are inspired by Lord of the Rings, like the Trollkin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which is funny that they would take things from a book, because they have been accused a lot of plagiarism, even though they may or may not have asked for. And I think, I don't know if they're still being sued, but it seems like every year you hear about it, someone's suing them or something. But I don't care, because they're great. So whatever, they're the best.
Yeah. They actually took something that maybe most of us never would have heard, or we heard it once and then didn't make a connection. But then you listen to a Led Zeppelin song, you go, the Lord of the Rings. You might not have ever thought about Lord of the Rings again. And you go, what is it? The Lord of Mordor. Yeah. The inner world, or the middle world, or Middle Earth, something, right? Middle Earth. Okay.
Yeah. Pocket protectors unite. Grateful Dude.
Okay, now here's what everybody's going to disagree with me, but yeah, because my second pick is way off for you guys, and number 1 and number 2, I couldn't pick, and I finally picked, but you guys are going to be blown away, I tell you. So my number 3 is, and it's still made 3/4 of the way up, so still a great album, is Led Zeppelin 2, because I started listening to them hard during 3, and then I went backwards. But one made it to number 4, but I usually like the older Zeppelin than the new Zeppelin. But here's where it gets nitty. I have listened to the following album at least 3,000 times. I think it's the best. Yeah, I mean, literally, I love Coda. I always love Coda. I think it's their best album, next to 3, which is my number 1 pick.
Okay.
Coda is different. All the other 8 are almost, I'm not going to say the same, but there's a lot of similarity. Coda, they went out. I know what Mark said about they were doing things to their fans and stuff. I think they were doing something for themselves. I think Coda is well produced. The songs are interesting. I love it. And if you guys have not heard it, especially listen to it heavily, it's a great, great album. And I wouldn't just say that lightly, but I really like Coda. I really do. And matter of fact, I listened to it this morning during breakfast before the meeting. It's a great album.
I'll listen to it tomorrow.
So yours were number 2, Coda, and number 3, right?
Led Zeppelin 3 is number 1, Coda number 2, and Zeppelin.
So talk 2. To me about 3.
This we come back to sentimental right here.
Yeah.
Is it better than any other? I doubt it. Why?
That's where I went.
It's the first one I bought.
There you go.
And it's the one I go back to all the time. I listen to 1, 2, 3, Coda, and that's probably it. Do I listen to like Physical Graffiti or Presidents? Not very often. Are they in my collection? Yes. But I go back to things that make me feel good. And that's why I like Coda. I really go, please, guys, if you haven't really listened to Coda, take a serious listen to it. The writing, I know Mark doesn't agree with me, but him and me don't always agree. That's fine.
Right.
But no, what I'm saying is Coda is what they probably should have done that other bands do. They die, they have their band is done. they should have released those extra tracks on the bonuses for the anniversary records, okay? Because
Goes into the box set.
most of those are from 1970, 72. There was nothing new under the sun for any of that record.
Yeah, but here's my thing is, now I have one edge up on you guys. Half the songs on Coda I heard live.
Yeah, because they were doing them since 1969, 70, and 72.
Yeah, and that definitely would make a difference for sure.
That's why I said when I go back to that record, that's what I hear. And I like the songs, but I go, geez, that would have been the one that gets me is the Bonzo's mantra. Yeah. That's a brilliant. He did that live all the time, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm not gonna sure if it's all the concert did that song, but I have heard live. I'm going back here. Walter's Walk. I've heard live. I've heard where is it? Bonzo's. I've heard Darlene. I love the song Darlene. Maybe that was because that was the name of my girlfriend when this came out. But hey,
I told you, there's always a love interest in there.
And I love Sugar Mama. I just love it. I like this whole album. And Deb, being such a lover of Led Zeppelin, you should really listen to this.
Well, I will, Chef, because I don't want to disappoint you, and I will give you I will give you my personal critique, just you and me, okay? I will listen to it later, and I will let you know.
We could have a special show just on it.
Yes, special show.
Just about Coda.
All right,
the Coda show.
The Coda show.
So, all of these, except the last one, I'll hold up in here is all on cassette, so I didn't go back and grab them. So my number 3 is number 2. Again, Thank You. Lemon Song, Whole Lot of Love, Moby Dick. Come on, that's it. My number 2 is Houses of the Holy.
Wow.
I love this record. It's nearly the most consuming album they have in style and production and delivery. It's amazing. I like Deb said about the crunge, that's another drumming masterpiece there, masterclass there. Why it didn't get to be number 1 or up is because 4 is sentimental to me. 4 is where I went, what is this? Because remember, In Through the Outdoor was probably where I came in on the radio, right? Which is not anywhere near what 4 is. 4 is always played. It's the first one I grabbed. To me, it's a masterpiece in the catalog. There is not a song on there that I go, I don't know. They bring it all. It's probably, I don't know. It's just, it's great. I can't, anytime, like that was the first Zeppelin album my kids heard, right? That's the one I brought in the car. That's what I grabbed. Well, now I can't because it's a cassette, cassette's in the car. So I've got to burn one or something. I don't know what I got to do there.
What's your favorite song on that album if you had to pick? Or is it too difficult? Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Which one?
Black Dog.
Oh yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
It's not my favorite, but hey, I'm the strange one out of the bunch.
But then again, I've never experienced them live, so that's another hit to the ears. If you experience something live, it does change your perception.
Yeah. Awesome.
See, even though, and I'm really surprised of that. Deb said she really doesn't like Stairway, but I think it was what introduced America to Led Zeppelin. That was the song. Without that song, they may have never got as popular as they did. I really believe that. That song has been number 1 on so many charts, in so many. I remember going to high school and listening to people in the hallway singing the song all over the place.
I think it
really
was
believe
just, I think it was just because it was more that,
overplayed.
yes, where I'm like, I don't want to hear this again. I'm trying to hear the Bay City Rollers, people. I want,
Is that because it just became Pour Some Sugar on Me?
yeah,
Pretty much.
Is it because it just became Thunderstruck? Is it that because
yes,
it became
I
Enter
think
Sandman?
yes. If
Yeah.
it had been in its own little isolated bubble, I don't think I would have the same feelings towards it. So that's just where I'm like, oh
Night.
my God, I only have 2 radio stations to pick from, and I can't keep switching this one off because every 45 minutes they're playing the
Well, it was
song.
probably at the time it came out, it was probably kind of a novel thing. Like, oh my God, are we really gonna on our radio station play an 8-minute song? But it's like
yes.
Well,
this is like a
unfortunately, they didn't.
Exactly.
You know?
They did not. They did
It was
a
truncated.
mastered version that was, I think it was 3 minutes and something seconds long.
I mean, the
It
guitar
was a
solo is
big
longer than
cut.
some songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, still, yeah,
exactly.
because back then, especially.
But so I graduated. When I graduated, our class song, we all picked it. We had to have 75% was Dazed and Confused.
I love it.
I honestly, that's my belief that was the song that set the stage.
That's what I think too.
And
Because
again,
that opening
just
is like
to show
powerful.
you how
It definitely didn't get the airtime. I can tell you because I lived
that
there.
doesn't matter. That obviously became something because it's like the story of Rush. It's like other bands like that people will say, well, that's the one that got overplayed on the radio. Yes, but the reason they continued to stay alive in the States and do it because Dazed and Confused, their leadoff single was not Dazed and Confused. It didn't do that well. And everybody, when they heard that, they're like, what's that wicked guitar thing? Because it sounded like Sabbath.
Right.
It had a bit of
Yeah,
Sabbath.
It did.
You're absolutely right. It did.
Just to show Jeff, you and I are right on our pick because what album has Stairway to Heaven on it? 4.
And that album was that song was never intended to be released as a single.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think that's why some people don't pick 4 because they're like, God damn, that song's on there that I'm tired of hearing, even though how good it is and how how many charts
it's a fabulous song. It's a fabulous song, and I think because it was, especially back then, literally between 1971 and 73 on the radio, especially in LA where I live, it was played every 15 minutes.
I would say for anyone who's tired of listening to that song, listen to it live.
I have.
It's way better, right?
I have.
It's how it's supposed to sound, right?
I was going to say that with the exception of my first concert, okay, because they had not released it yet, okay. Every other live concert played Stairway, usually as the last song or as a encore.
Well, I would hope it would be the last song so I get a different encore. I'm still sticking by it. So sorry.
Yeah. I think I saw them. I think they didn't always do encores. It all depends. If they were like at the US Festival, nobody did encores because
you got to move along.
They're waiting for another band to come on and stuff.
Right.
But, I think 2 out of the 3 times I saw them, non-us was twice they did it as an encore and once they did it as our last song. But when they did it as an encore, like I remember, I believe it was at the Forum in 72, 73, they did, it had to be a 17-minute Stairway.
Yeah, and that's where you get to hear
the went on and on and on and on.
Yeah, but you're not just hearing just the chorus over and over again, like Jeff was saying. You want to hear that live, you're seeing just the range that every one of the band members could do inside that song. That becomes more interesting,
I mean,
obviously.
If you're doing a Stairway to Heaven, it probably shouldn't take 3 minutes. It should probably take 17 to maybe it should take 22, like Bob Dylan for some of his stuff.
But it's a long stairway.
Yeah, it is, and
all the way to heaven.
Yeah,
all the way to heaven, baby.
Just to give people this thing on Stairway to Heaven. So I recommend Encomium. It is a Led Zeppelin tribute album that was done probably back in 95. Yes, 1995. So here it is. They go and say, hey, we're doing a tribute album. Who would like to play on it? And what song would you like to have? Misty Mountain was done by Four Non Blondes. Hey, Hey, What Can I Do was done by Hootie and the Blowfish.
Huh.
Dire
Really?
Maker was done by Sheryl Crow.
Oh, I love
Dancing
that.
Days was done by Stone Temple Pilots.
I knew that.
Tangerine by Big Head Todd and the Monsters. Thank You was done by Duran Duran.
What?
Out on the Tiles was done by Blind Melon. Good Times, Bad Times was done by Cracker. Custard Pie was done by Helmet with the lead singer of Jesus Lizard. Four Sticks was done by the Rollins Band. Going to California was done by Never the Bride. And finally, Down by the Seaside was Robert Plant and Tori Amos. Notice
Really?
what song is not on there, because no one in their right mind is going to try to cover Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven.
Unless you're Weird Al Yankovic.
That's like a bad karaoke
Escalator to
show.
Heaven.
We'll do that at karaoke. We should all go.
One of these days.
That's awesome.
I will.
So, when you guys were just talking about what your favorite song on Four is, and by and far, Going to California. I love that song.
Yeah, great tune.
That's
That's
a great
one of my
song.
favorite songs of all the Zeppelin. It's a great song. Mainly because I lived in California, so I hate much.
Yeah, probably.
Could be. Listen, I want to thank my panelists for doing this
1 second.
catalog review show.
Grateful New wants to throw in myself. So everybody out there in Radioland, I am leaving today, and I will not be back for 3 weeks. But you might see me pop in now and then at the magic of Mark right there. I'm going to Scotland. Going to be listening to lots and lots of live music. So
Looking under kilts.
And yeah, and eating lots of haggis. So guys, stay tuned. Check out every day, because I may be popping in from, never know. So anyway, Mark,
castle.
everybody, make sure you subscribe. We need your help. Go ahead, Mark.
But wait a minute.
What?
We're all supposed to tell if it's legendary, iconic.
Yep.
None of the above.
Legendary.
That is correct. So on this, the final part is, where do you rank this band? And in that, I got to remember my listings. So
I didn't look.
yeah,
I just knew.
kind of
I
lost
knew the first.
that.
It's legendary, iconic, and
Legendary. Absolutely.
So wow, why do I not have this? Sad.
that was the easy part of my ranking.
Where are the connected pieces? Okay, so legendary, entire catalog is near perfection, reliable, inventive, sincere, and very influential. Iconic was very memorable, very influential to the listener and industry, trend-setting and generational. After that, it's relevant, club level, opening act, and faded memory. So I know that Deb puts them at legendary. I know that Chef Jeff has them
Legendary.
at legendary. Jeff Young, where do you place them?
Same.
Legendary. Yeah, I myself, they are absolutely legendary for sure. This was the easiest part of it all.
Yeah. Very
really
fun.
No doubt in there.
Very fun.
I'll thank the panelists for joining me on this this day, Sunday, September 10th. We will all be back doing this in a month with the band In Excess in October. That'll be our next one. Join us on the web at www.beyondyourradio.com for all the articles and going on and et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, if you haven't liked any of our videos, go back, like them all, or I will hunt you down and gut you like a fish. Also, subscribe, because if I don't get enough subscribers, we're never going to be monetized, and I'm going to continue to have to walk to work every day. Thank you all for watching, and happy listening.